you for
This
joining this
conference will
session.
now be recorded.
And during this session, we'll have around like 45 minutes, and we will be discussing more about integration suite, SAP BTP platform, which is like a core platform which hosts integration suite, right? We will talk about some of the capabilities of integration suite, some reference architecture like cloud to cloud integration, cloud to on-prem integration, and we'll also talk about how we can provision SAP integration suite in the trial platform. So I'll try to make this session more and more interactive. So if you have any questions anywhere, you can feel free to ask, right? Otherwise, we can have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. But I do encourage you all to ask questions, because this is where you want to know more about integration suite and how this can help you, right? So with that, this is just some of the agendas that we are going to cover up. Now, what exactly is the integration vision for cloud platform? I have a mixed audience here. Few of you are having experience in PI as well, which is a process integration. Now we have a process orchestration, and now we also have integration suite, right? Now, why? Before I start, right? So let me start with asking a question. What do you mean by integration as such? What is the need for the integration? If anyone can explain this, what do you mean by integration stuff as such?
To send any information or a data from one system to another system, there should be a connection. The connection which is nothing but kind of integration interfaces which can be used.
Right. So in a pure technical term, it's basically a data exchange between two different systems, right? So we are now the data does not reside. The data still resides into the source or the target systems, right? But that is our source of truth. But sometimes what happens is we need to send a copy of that data into another one, right? So there are various integration uh, scenarios that is possible with that. Let's say if you want to read a data from file and then you want to pass it to the SAP system, or suppose if you are receiving an invoice in your inbox and you want to do an invoice matching, three-way matching into the SAP system, that is another scenario. The third scenario could be you are having a chatbot, right, where user is asking for the customer, or customer is asking for the order information or order status, and then again you are prompting, okay, what's your order number, and then you extract the data from the SAP system or the backend system to give you the, or to give the customer order status, right? So these are some of the integration scenarios, typical integration scenarios, and at the very core of that is the data exchange, right? um, we also have data integration, right? But generally what we call it as a process integration. So data is an essential part of the process entire, right? So when we talk about process integration, that means we are talking more about a more higher level, right? So data resides at the core, but on top of the data, there are processes. And in one process, you can have multiple different domains of the data, or different contextual data, I can say, right? Now, in this particular slide, you can see that we can have API-based direct integration. So we can have point-to-point integration also. And in some cases, we do require a mediated integration. What it means is, like, you have a platform specifically designed for the integration, to handle integration scenarios. Now, what is a point-to-point integration? Can anyone explain me? What do you mean? What do you understand by the point-to-point integration? Anything just off the top of your head, point to point.
If you have multiple system, like you will have one-to-one integration with each system. So instead of centralized middleware, what is for PO?
Right. So that means you have a source system, you have a target system, and the target system is connected directly to the source system, right? So let's say if I want to do a order tracking, right? So I'll have my UI application, which is hosted on, let's say, Cloud Foundry environment, and I have the order status available into the SAP system, on-premise system, and I just simply call the OData service, right, from the UI. And this gives me the integration. So this is also an integration scenario, one integration scenario, right? So this is called point-to-point integration. Then if point-to-point integration scenarios are available, why we need integration suite or why we need a middleware specifically for the integration scenarios, right? So why we need integration suite or CPI, or if I just take it to the next level, why we need a process integrator, PI or PO, what benefit it can give you.
The other system has to understand the data communicated. Right?
The other
This facility.
system should
See,
understand the
when data
data.
is, yeah, when data is moving from one system to
Or
one source to
or you can say
destination.
both data are different. Suppose source data is different and target data is different, then middleware is going to communicate that, right? Convert that so that each can understand that data.
Okay, so can't we do this communication or this conversion directly into the point-to-point system? Let's say let's say that you have a OData service or API, right, which has its own specification. What you need, you just need to pass the information in that particular API in the specific template, right, in the specific format. Let's say if it is asking for an order number, you just pass the order number, right? So this can be achieved through point-to-point communication also. But why we need a middleware? You're going in the right direction. Just wanted to you can say
See,
joke
there
your
are
memory.
many systems, one-to-many system, right? When you have to exchange data between so many system, point to point, it will rise a complexity of connectivity and everything. So PIPOV, it is a centralized middleware which can exchange data to all multiple systems with whatever format they need. It might be like
Mhm.
one system need in file format, one is in REST API call we'll be making, or to the backend system, SAP system, either ad hoc or a proxy integration, which we will be doing. So it depends on what kind of integration. We can do point to point, as you said, but there are many benefits with the centralized system and even the monitoring. And also here we don't store the data, instead we just exchange the data, that all the formats will be converted into XML in middleware, and then to specific format what the target or the source system is pertain to receive.
Or you can say
Right. So,
heterogeneous system. Target
sorry,
something different, source something different.
sorry, come again. I couldn't hear you properly.
Heterogeneous system. Like
Heterogeneous system.
source
Yeah.
target. Yeah. Source
Yes. Yes.
different, target different. So we need someone middleware,
Right.
something like
Right.
that.
See, the reason I asked this question is as integration developers, right? You should be aware of, or at least you should know, or you should be able to convince your client that middleware is right choice for this particular scenario. I have seen sometimes what happens is when you are in a client facing or when customer asks you why we are not going with the PI point to point or one to one connection, right? So if it is a simple scenario, so you need to be ready with the answers that in the centralized scenario, as Soumya mentioned, that it is more, first of all, you will have a better control of that, right? So you will have a better control of the data flow. That's the first part of it. The second part is out of the box, you will see some monitoring tools, right? Which means that you can monitor your data exchange also, like what happened, what wrong happened, and how you can rectify that, right? And third thing is because of this centralized system, you can apply certain security policies as well, right? Always remember, data is very vital for any business application, right? And if you are developing any interface, any integration scenario, you need to ensure that the data conforms to the highest security standards and security policies, right? So that's why sometimes you will see that there are encryptions which is needed at the data at rest. Sometimes the encryptions are required when data is in transit state, right? So these middleware these middlewares, and to be specific, in integration suite supports the highest security standards for data exchange, right? Now with that, we will see what are the common integration capabilities that this integration suite provides, right? So apart from the normal one, which we have discussed also, like cloud apps, so they can be, you can integrate SAP Cloud with other cloud applications, like say Salesforce, you can connect with that, right? You can also connect your applications to Ariba, right, which is a supplier uh, system. You can connect your application to on-premise system, and this on-premise system can be SAP as well as non-SAP systems, right? There are some adapters or something which can help you to connect to the government uh, agencies like taxation authorities for regulatory compliances. You can connect your application with business partners as well, with social media like LinkedIn, Facebook. There are uh, adapters available for that. And then most importantly, you can also connect with your mobile apps, your uh, IoT devices. Like now we have chat GPT, chatbots, right? We are talking more about Internet of Things now, sensory data. So that means you have a huge explosion of the data, right? And that data needs to be monitored. It needs to be secured as well, so that we can monetize it at the later stage. So all these things can eventually lead you to the cloud platform integration. So the platform integration or integration suite is at the center of that. Any questions here so far? Okay. Now this is a typical overview of that. So what the high level you can say uh, the capabilities of cloud integration suite. So you can see you have cloud to hybrid integration scenarios. It does orchestration, mediation, transformation, message routing, and all. It has a reliable RMS, reliable messaging services as well. We'll talk more about all these things in the detail when we'll just go with the entire training program. Another thing that it helps is it has an entire life cycle management also. So right from the transport management, right from the monitoring, right, uh, retrieving the data, extracting the data from the retrieving the data from the source system, doing any transformation middle in at the transform layer or then the middle layer, and then passing it to the target system, right? So all this is supported by integration suite. Another important part that another scenario for integration suite is B2B scenarios, like business to business integration scenarios, right? So it is quite popular also, like when you have a supplier and automatically the purchase order gets converted into the sales order or something like that, right? So there are some B2B scenarios possible using with that. It does provide you some open connectors, APIs, integration advisors. So all these things we'll be discussing during the training program in detail. But apart from that, do you have any questions on this particular slide or anything with this? No? Okay, so I'll take silence as no. Now, this is a very high level overview of the entire picture, right? So what are the various interdependencies between different integrations domain, right? So So what are the themes that are emerging here is that you can have on the left hand side, you will see on this side, you have users centric application, and on the right hand side, you can see there are some things which is like real world objects, right? Then you have on the top, you have cloud, and below that, you will see there are on-premise system, right? Now, if you see, there are a couple of things that emerge as an integration scenarios. One is you can integrate user to the cloud using integration. That is one scenario. You can connect users to the on-prem system also, right? You can connect your cloud to cloud. You can connect cloud to on-premise or on-premise to cloud. You can connect things to the cloud or things to on-premise. All these things are falls under the integration domains, right? Now, with more and more IoT and the things of these Internet of Things are coming up, there is a need to access the data in a more reliable manner, which is not possible, or you can say, I wouldn't say not possible, but it is technically it is very difficult to meet the business objective if we go with the point to point connection, right? So let's say you are working for a fleet management company, and this is a real scenario which I am telling you now. In one of my customer, they were having hundreds of fleets, or you can say cars, which is for they do leasing to the vendors and all, right? So these fleets, they have certain devices and which tracks the route of that, means which route they have taken. It also tracks, it also monitors the fuel consumptions and the driving behavior. I mean, but that was a different thing, right? So that is not something related to the integration. But what is most important part is there are devices on board onto the cars, and these devices transmits data to their centralized system, which is a non-SAP system anyways, and we need to monitor, we need to extract the data from that centralized server and move to pass it to the some SAP system, right? So using integration cloud for that. So in that cases, you are actually connecting to the things. Things are connected to the centralized server, and then centralized server is connected to your SAP system, right? So this is kind of an integration domains that is being nowadays, that is being becoming more and more prevalent, you can say, right? Apart from your traditional ones, where let's say your a vendor has put up a invoice on your centralized file location, and you just pick up that file, use OCR, extract the information, matches with the SAP information, and then decide whether there is a match, whether this needs to be paid or not, or all other as per the business process, right? So that is also a typical B2B scenario also possible with that, right? So these are some of the integration usage options you can see. So at a very high level, okay, we can do data integration with CPI or integration suite, right? We can do a complete integration flow. We can design our own flow using integration suite. There is a OData services also which you can use. So you can use SOAP, REST APIs, and value mapping, right? So as someone said, sometimes you have to do a mapping of the values between inbound and the outbound messages, right? So you can do a value mapping. Now at a very high level, you will, if you have worked with the PI and all, or any other typical middleware, right, not specific to the PI but any middleware, you will see these are some of the use cases for using the middleware, right? So these are some of the options available which you can use for the middleware section. Any questions here so far?
Quick question, Abhi. So
Yeah.
when you said PI, PO, so as of today, let's say that the SAP Cloud Platform or the integration suite is replacing PI, PO. Is that an accurate statement?
I I would say it's based upon what I'm hearing, right? PIPO is still there, right? But there will be a sunset for that, and I would say more and more scenarios are being taken care by the integration suite now, right? And I know in SAP world, it is quite new because you have a middleware which is available on the cloud side. But in general, in overall IT landscape, there are other other cloud integration providers. Just to name few, there is one called Dell Boomi. Boomi probably you have heard of. If not, Boomi is a market leader in integration suite, right? It was there in a lot of many years earlier than the integration suite. You can say it is more mature also. The other one is Informatica integration suite. So Informatica has another integration tool. So I worked on integrate Informatica as well as Boomi side, and yeah, from the non-SAP point of view. But from SAP side, within the SAP landscape, integration suite is gaining more and more traction. And as SAP is more focusing onto the BTP platform as such with clean core approach, if you have heard that term, right? So that means integration suite will be a preferred choice or preferred tool for designing integration scenarios within SAP landscape, right? So that means uh, I know this is more like a political statement or a diplomatic statement. There is no straight answer for that. But yes, in near term, you will see that people will more adopt or embrace integration suite than PIPO. But again, if there is we cannot say that integration suite is now replacing the PIPO, but now there are some tractions that has been happening where due to the S/4HANA implementations, due to the new digital transformation programs, companies are embracing more and more cloud technology, right? So there is a writing on the wall that integration suite is the future, right? And PIPO is more limited to the, you can say, application maintenance and support only. So no new implementations I have seen which uses PIPO as of now. Hope that
Thank you.
answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other question? Okay. Okay. So now we'll quickly see there are two reference architecture. Now this is a very just nothing, just your block diagrams, you can say, just to have a more visual view of the integration architecture. Now each integration is different. Each integration is specific to the business need, right? But just to give you a flavor of how a typical architecture look like, right? That you have a sender and then you have a receiver. So everything in the integration world, there are senders, there are receivers, right? Sender is one which sends the data and receiver is consumes the data, right? And between the sender and the receiver, there is a magic that happens, and that magic happens within the integration suite, right? So what we do in the cloud to cloud integration, your receivers are another cloud-based applications. It could be software as a service, or it could be another platform as a service, right? Uh, so when you're doing cloud to cloud integration, there are adapters which you can use to design this, right? So in integration flow, you design your entire integration flow. Now, what happens within the integration flow is, what are the typical things that can go wrong with the data, right? So one is you need to just make sure that the data that you are receiving is correct, right? It has not lost in the transition. The other thing could be there could be bad quality data, which you might have to enrich it within the integration flow. Uh, there could be a different format in sender system than is being accepted by the receiver system. So you need to do a transformation of that. Okay, just to give you an example, right? So let's say in sender system you are using ISO 2 code for country, two character code, but in your receiver system it is expecting ISO 3 code, 3 character code for the countries, right? So you can do all these mappings for that as well. And in top of that, there could be another kind of mapping also. Let's say in Sender there is a different value of the company code which needs to be mapped to a different company code onto the receiver side, right? So you need to understand the context, like what exactly we need to map for that, right? Uh, the other one is your cloud to on-premise system integration. Now, at a very high level, you will see it is quite similar to what cloud environment. The only difference is all these communication. If you are connecting with the SAP on-premise system, so your communication should happen through the cloud connector, right? So you to ensure that your cloud connectors are up and running, it is high availability, right? And it should allow your cloud integration APIs as well. Now, one of the uh, but initially we faced one problem with the cloud connector, right? So what happened is we have suggested something to our customer, and we overlooked, you can say, or there was an oversight from us that means we have not included the infrastructure restrictions, the landscape restrictions that client was having, right? Uh, so there was restrictions on the client side that they don't allow. Uh, they were very restrictive about opening up a data ports or ports for their security landscape. Right? They were not even allowing us to install cloud connector on their local machines. Right? So that was quite a fix at that time because the cloud platform was quite new and not everyone was so much has any confidence on the cloud environment. But do why I'm explaining this is do consider these some of these basic things also. What we as a consultant, as a developer, we tend, okay, what if cloud connector we can install it anywhere, right? So but please do understand that any restrictions are there into the client landscape, right? So that you can onboard the client IT team also, and this will also ensure that if you have any deviation from the project plan, right? So let's say you have estimated just 2 days for the cloud connector, but your IT team, the client IT team is saying now they want to take 2 weeks for that, right? So make sure that you all these connectivity features, all these restrictions, or all these security policies that is needed for your integration scenarios are very well documented. We'll be talking more about all these things, these kind of project nuggets during entire program training program, right? But just to give you a glimpse of the typical challenges that an integration project can face, right? Any questions here on the cloud to cloud or cloud to on-premise reference scenarios? Okay, I'll take it as a no. So next, I'll just take you to the
I have one question here, like how
yeah,
proxy is supported with the cloud actually, since
how
PIPO will not come. In PIVO, we do design the proxy structure, right? So now it is
yes.
directly with cloud. How are we going to configure proxy? Like whether how it is supported the existing proxy scenarios?
Uh, See, that is very specific question, but we'll be discussing more detail again. But just to give you a very high level thing, so you can
Yeah.
see here in this particular reference, there is an entire integration process that has been developed, right? Now, so there are some adapters using which you can do, but again, what kind of proxy scenarios you have used in your existing landscape, that needs to be first validated. What level of support is available into the integration suite, that needs to be again checked. There might be possibility that a lift and shift can work, or there is also a possibility that you might need to create a wrapper around your existing structure so that it makes more sense. Traditionally, what I have seen with any existing interface moves, when it moves to the integration suite, right? Uh, Based upon my experience, what I have seen is that if we do lift and shift kind of scenarios, right, with minimal things, sometimes we don't get a benefit out of integration suite itself, right? Because
Okay.
these proxy scenarios are optimized for PI, right, which is
Yes.
on-premise system only. These may not be optimized for handling the cloud-based scenarios, right? So in cloud-based scenarios, we generally use API-based integrations. We use OData generally, right? We can also use you can say other reliable messaging like asynchronous messaging, where you can have a event-based uh, triggers, right? So this needs to be checked, to be honest,
Okay.
and there is no straight away answer for that, right? But again, depending upon the complexity, there are few pointers or few guidelines you can say, right, which you can do as a sniff test whether this proxy scenario that you are referring is a straightforward one, how complex it is, right? And if it is too complex, I would probably advise you, okay, to reassess it and see if this can be re-engineered as per the cloud scenario,
Okay.
cloud platform scenario, right? But if it is a straightforward thing, it is not that much crucial, right? You can say not that important. If you have right mitigation plans, right way of error handlings and all, right, then you can probably go with the lift and shift approach as well. Okay,
Okay.
but this will be
Thank you.
discussing during the adapters and the integration scenarios more, right? Like
Okay.
how cloud integration scenarios are typically different than the on-premise scenarios, integration
Okay.
scenarios. Okay.
Thank
Okay, then. So that concludes this. Now, what I'll take you to the cloud environment. Now, this is a BTP trial platform. So you can go. I've just created a BTP trial account here, right? And what you can do is you can set up your own integration suite, right? Uh, so how you can actually create a BTP platform? If you have not done that, there is a nice tutorial on that, but you can go to the sap.com trial account, okay, and you can register your account to there, and then just follow the on-screen instructions for that. So once you have that BTP platform access, the trial access, you go to boosters, right? And here you can see we have enable integrations here. Now this is a very straightforward, simplest approach of creating integration suite, right? The other way is you can go to, now this activity is generally performed by the cloud administrator or BTP administrators, right? So as an integration developer, you might not be able to do that, to do this service provisioning, but just to give you an idea how it does. So you can say this is my trial cockpit, and I go to instance and subscription under services, right? And it lists all the services that you have already subscribed. So you can see all I have subscribed to this business application studio. There are environments, right, also, and currently I don't have any instance that is running up. Now I can click on create, and here you can see there are so many capabilities, so many services that is available. Now, what the objective of this course is only integration suite. So you can see here there is an integration suite available for this, right? But just to give you an idea, what all major services are available, there is a ABAP environment, so you can also enable ABAP environment. Now, this ABAP environment is really good for someone who is having a traditional ABAP background, right? And who wants to learn the ABAP on cloud, right? So it requires RESTful ABAP programming skills, right? So this is something which is needed for ABAP, and this is a eventual, you can say a gradual next step for anyone who is having a ABAP background, right? And who wants to learn or upskill himself. The second thing you can see is there is a Cloud Foundry runtime. Now this is generally for UI developers or cloud native developers, right? So this is used for developing applications like Node.js applications and UI as well. Sometimes it is needed for integration developer also to create some native APIs onto the environment. Again, no standard rule for that. Again, it depends upon the business requirements and the complexity of the business process. You need to decide whether you need to create it here or in some systems, other system. But this also gives you an option for that. There is a workflow also here, which is called process automation now. This earlier it was part of the workflows. So here using process automation, you can write your own business rules. You can create your own workflows, which you created into the on-premise system, right? And the another one is HANA services. Now this is for our HANA guys who wants to develop modelings or who wants to create some database tables onto the SAP system, on the cloud system. And the last, not the least, is mobile services. So you can develop your mobile applications also onto the on the cloud environment, right? So you can see here now this is where you should focus also that SAP is focusing more and more onto the BTP side. If you have taken a closer look on last 3 years result of SAP, also their cloud business has has always had a double-digit growth, you can say, right? So this will give you an idea, right? So where exactly the industry is heading or where SAP is focusing more onto that. So that gives you another excuse or another reason to learn integration suite, that it will take somewhere down the line, it will probably take over the PO also, right? So with this, we have integration suite here. So I can create like this as well. Now this is more used for, you can say, I've just started creating that. So it will be more useful for business administrator, or you can say the cloud administrator who does all these kind of things, right? But from your perspective, what you can do is you can go to the booster and then do that, right? So once you do this, you can see here that this is my integration suite has been created, right? Now I go to the role collections here. So you will see there are certain security roles that is needed, right? So one is integration provisioner. So this is integration administrator, you can say, who needs this particular role, right? So what I'll do is I'll just quickly add ID here and save, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm creating my assigning this role to myself so that I can add some of the capabilities onto the integration side. Now one more important thing is, now this step, if you are working for in the productive environment, you might have to create there might be an integration tenant, oh sorry, identity tenant. There can be a separate you can say Active Directory or separate user base, right? So there might be a configuration between the BTP environment, BTP platform, and your identity provider, which can be your on-premise LDAP also, right? So there are possibilities there. So this is, again, this is not specific to the integration suite, but just to keep it back in the back of your mind that uh, from where the users are stored and how I'm going to assign these roles to the users, right? So this is also something that you should keep you should keep in mind, right? So once I assign this role, then I go to my subscription and go to application, and if everything is right, it should open up a page. Okay, so you can see here now this is just some announcement. So this is the screen that you should get when you have an integration provisioner role. Now you need to add capabilities. Remember we talked about the capabilities within this. So when you click on the add capabilities, you will see all these scenarios that is possible with that, right? Now what I'll do is I'll just select all. All right. Click next. Message queue next. Just follow the on-screen instruction. Enable API Business Hub, SAP Graph QL. This is something new, and I encourage you to, if you have not, if you are not aware of the Graph QL as such, so please Google it. Right. So Graph QL is another set of APIs, you can say, another way of integrating. You can say various relationships. Okay. So there are Graph APIs available, and it itself is a different domain. For that. Now you can see all these are part. We have integration advisor, partner management, connectors, assessment, and all, and then finally activate that. So once you do that, you have all the capabilities. It might take some time, right? So it's gonna take it will add all the capabilities onto your integration trial version, and then you are ready to start scenarios for that. Okay. So any questions so far? Okay. So with that, I can say I have concluded the demo, right? So hope this will be useful for you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hello. Yeah. What is the percentage of the coding, in terms of custom development or kind of ABAP skill set that required here? The configurations looks fine, in terms of navigations part or integrations to the other systems. But if there is any, yeah, a development point of view, what kind of skill set are required?
Right. So the straight answer to your question is that there are, if you are familiar with the developments, right? If you have a prior coding experience, that do help you, right? Uh, but if there are simple integration scenarios that you're working, you might not need to create much of the coding, and with low code, no code options are coming up, you can easily do these kind of integrations as well, right? But if there are more complex scenarios, you might need to write some of the JavaScript code, right? Uh, as I said, there might be need to develop some APIs, right? Like Node.js API or even a BAP API also. So in that case, you require some coding. Now, a BAP skill as such, there is no specific need for the BAP skill or the JavaScript skill, right? My understanding is if you are in SAP, all the SAP developers should know, at least should be aware of ABAP, right? That's the one part. And with the BTP skills that are coming up, so everyone should be also aware of the basic JavaScript knowledge. So if you have this basic understanding, you should be good to go. But again, it depends, entirely depends upon the complexity of your integration scenario, right? So I have seen in some cases we have not even created any additional script. It was very straightforward, but in some, yes, there was a complex services that we had to create. And in one scenario, it was the native service that we have created actually, right? So we consumed that, we delegated that the entire transformation logic to the database layer itself, right? And then extract the data uh, into the API, sorry, into the integration, and then do additional processing on that, and then move it to the receiver system. Yes, please. I see
Okay.
another hand.
Sorry. Is the transportation that we are following the same thing? Quality development, quality, and production systems, right? Pushing the TR transport request to one system to other system, or downloading and uploading the TRs.
Okay. So in cloud transformations, in cloud project, what happens is if you have uh, generally you don't have three-tier landscape, right? So it is sometimes if you are lucky enough, you will get three-tier. Otherwise, it is always non-prod and the prod system, right? Now there are some CI/CD integrations that is available using which you can transform your automatically transport your objects, right? And in some cases, depending upon what your client has taken, manual options are always there.
Do you
This
provide
answers your
any
question.
training material, Abhi?
Yeah, I mean, I have what I'll be following here is I'll be following a standard SAP training program, which I have
Okay.
given to freshers as well as anyone who is new into the integration side. Uh, there is a code called CLD 900, that is Cloud 900 training. You can note it down. You can go to
Mhm.
SAP site and see the entire course, what we'll be covering there itself. So my this course is also based upon the similar lines. I try to make it more uh, close to what SAP has provided. Okay. The reason for that is it's gonna help you, or it's gonna help anyone who is also preparing for any certification, right? And yes, with that will be provide. I can help you with some of the material. Also, we'll be referring more onto the standard help files, right? Standard SAP help links. Uh, with minimal PPT material as such, because PPT I just use for the course structure. That's it, right? So there is nothing much you can actually get out of that PPT. But yeah, I'll be sharing some of the help links. I'll be sharing some of the tutorials links, uh, and there will be a structured course around that.
Do you have any your own notes or will be providing SAP PDFs, Abhi?
No, I don't have any my own notes, to be honest.
Okay. Any
Okay, means
SAP
it will be
PDFs
standard
you have?
SAP material, standard SAP material. But yeah, I
I
can help you with.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand. See, it depends. Some people will have a very beautiful notes. It is easy to understand from there. Same
Yeah.
subject, different people teach differently. So,
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
my style is means my to be honest, I have not created my own material. To be
fine,
honest.
fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. Any SAP PDFs you are going to share?
Yeah, I can share SAP PDFs, and I can share you some of the uh, things that we have actually presented. Uh,
Okay.
Again, those are all SAP's public material
Oh,
only, so there is no
okay.
confidentiality around that. But I can share you some of the SAP PDFs as well, which is related to the TechEd, which I have seen in the TechEd. I have observed in various webinars also.
Okay. Overall, how many sessions, Abhi, this training?
The course is somewhere around like 30 hours course.
Okay.
So 30 sessions. One session amounts to 1 hour, right?
Okay.
So but I have seen sometimes it can go beyond like 30 hours also, depending upon
Right.
the understanding. Sometimes we may have to repeat one or two
Right.
classes. So you
Right.
can say if it can be like 30 to 32 hours, right? So and sometimes it can go less than 30 hours also, depending upon again the understanding of
So you are
the
flexible.
audience.
You are flexible.
Yeah, I mean, like, see, 2 hours here and there, it really doesn't matter for me. For me, what is important is you should be able to understand, okay,
Yeah.
because you are here to learn, and
Right.
I'm also here to learn from you,
Right.
all right?
Okay.
And this is something which I'm just doing as part of my passion, you can say. It's not the regular role that I'm doing,
Any
right?
kind of practice kind or hands-on kind activity in the system during this training,
Yes, there will
Abhi?
be. There should be, but again, we can discuss about lab requirement, what kind of scenarios is needed with Naveen, right? But yes, integration scenarios are typically very system specific also. So it
Right.
requires different kind of systems. Like if I have to do, let's say, file to iDoc scenario, or if I have to do file to S4HANA scenario, or
Right.
let's say invoice matching scenario, so there are some configurations needed as well to handle
Right.
those things, right? But
Do we
yes,
get
you can
access
rest
to,
assured there will be a scenarios.
sorry to interrupt, do we get access to any SAP backend system as well, like any cloud system?
I think this Naveen can answer that question. Anything
Uh,
related to training infrastructure, Naveen can help you with that.
Yeah. So yeah, that I'll update you offline. Okay, what the systems will get. Okay.
Okay. Is it possible to include like EDI as well for the answer?
Sorry, which one?
EDI.
EDI. Okay, we can think about that.
Okay, because we need it majorly. We are using that, so hands-on
Yeah.
would be
See,
helpful
what
for us.
what we'll do is since in the interest of the larger audience also, we'll start with the basic things, right? And then we'll eventually move on to the complex one, like EDI one, during the end of the sessions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if required, we can have like 1 hour separate session just for the EDI itself. So that's
Yes,
okay, right? It's
yeah.
uh,
We just need
even I
like
have to
basic
brush up to
understanding, like
yeah.
how to
To
configure
be
EDI
honest,
in
again,
like cloud, how it is
yeah,
different.
yeah. Just to be
So,
honest with you, even I have to brush up EDI part. It's been a while I've done that.
okay. Because our integration majorly is on EDI, so
Yeah, yeah.
that because that is the most
It's
complex thing.
yeah,
So
it's one of the complex one. I can understand that, and in the part, see the interesting thing about the integrations that I have worked with is if you are doing actually hands-on onto that integration at that time you know everything about that, but once you are done with that after 3 months you'll just know the concept but you don't know the intricacies of those things, right? So but
okay,
we'll see that. No worries.
okay, thank
Hey, Abhi, from a timeline perspective, tentatively, like what's the schedule you're looking at end to end to wrap up the CLD 900 course content?
Yeah, so see there is a time zone difference as well. um, Naveen, if you want, can we stop the recording please?
One second.